Hello, and welcome back to Diecast Graveyard. My name is Paul. Thank you for joining me today. We've got a pretty wild build. What we have here is the Hot Wheels fantasy car, the Large Charge. Now this car was originally released in 1975, and it only came in one color, this enamel green. It was a concept electric car. And it's a pretty cool casting, but this is starting to show where Hot Wheels decided to try and save money. It's got hollow wheels, it doesn't have the Spectre Flame paint, and, well, I think it can look better. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to roll the clock back, paint this bad boy Spectre Flame, put some real red line tires on there, and have some fun. Grab your favorite adult beverage and join along. Okay, I've already got the post drilled out on the car. And there's two posts on this car. The body's not in really bad shape, but all the paint has been chipped off and the decals are worn out and everything. So we're going to go ahead and strip that down and polish it up. Here's the base. Now the seats were incorporated into the base of the car. And, you know, like I said, this is about the time Hot Wheels started trying to save money. And things were a little bit rough. They weren't as great as the first year or second year that came out. This glass needs to be polished, but we can save that and we'll take care of it. Let's go ahead and move on.
Meanwhile, back in the graveyard.
Here we're going to dip the car in the embalming fluid, or aka citrus strip. Now a lot of times when I go to use this product, I let it set for more than is necessary. It usually only takes about 20 minutes or so for this to work, but sometimes I just dip it in the citrus strip and I'll set it off to the side, and then when I take a look at it and go, hey, all the paint's bubbled off, then I'll go back to work on it. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step. I've got the body out of the paint stripper. Now we're going to go ahead and polish it up. And I says, you know, I could have gone ahead and used some steel wool or something on this first to try and bring out the shine a little bit. But you know what? Flitz is a great product. So I'm just going to go ahead and polish it up without cleaning up the material on the outside. Now, a lot of times I do that. Or, well, every time I do that. I says, you know, let's try this and see what it does. So I've got my Flitz on there. When I use my Dremel and my buffing bonnet, I go ahead and I take my time with it. I don't want to speed it up. If you have your Dremel going too fast, my past experience with this is that it will burn the product. And what I mean by that is it'll burn the cream, the Flitz that you put on there, and it could possibly damage the metal on the outside and give it some dark stains. So I slow the Dremel down. All you want to do is get this rubbed in and rubbed on and get it polished. Now look how good that's working. Okay? That works fantastic. Now in the comments there is a link and a code for Flitz. If you copy the link and post it in your web browser and then use the code Graveyard, if you go to the Flitz website, you'll get 20% off any product on the Flitz website. Now, this deal is exclusive to people who watch Diecast Graveyard videos. So go ahead and check it out. If you want to pick yourself up some Flitz, and they've got a bunch of other fantastic products. If you've got weapons that need to be cleaning that you have, they've got cleaning kits for those. They've got all kinds of stuff. Now, the other good part, Flitz can also be used to polish your plastic windshields. All right, and I use that later on to do that with the windshield for the Large Charge. So, hey, what a fantastic product. You don't have to carry a whole bunch of stuff. One product does a lot of the stuff you already need. So check out Flitz, okay? It's great stuff. Now, I get complaints from people that say, oh, you know, you advertise too much. Well, I want you to know where I get the stuff that I use to make my cars look good. And that's why I do this. Now, also, there may be people watching for the first time. that don't know about this great product, and I want to make sure they know. All right? So check out Flitz. It's a great product, and I stand behind it 110%. All right. Now, polishing bonnets you can usually use for 1, maybe 2 cars. Now, I get my polishing bonnets off of Amazon, and I've got an Amazon Marketplace page. I usually buy them in a bag of 100, and it's about 15 bucks or something like that. I can't remember the price off the top of my head because I bought a bag of them, and they last a long time. So check out my Amazon Marketplace page, and the link for that is in the comments also. That's looking fantastic. Now, I could have used some steel wool or maybe even sanded it down a bit, but that looks fantastic for what we're going to do. Now let's go ahead and paint the body. Here I've got some paint from the Redline shop. I'm going to be using Spectre Flame Green on this car. Now, if you're going to use another kind of paint like Createx or the fantastic paint called Chroma Air from Spray Gunner, usually you'll have to thin it down quite a bit to get it through a 0.3 needle. If you're using a 0.5 needle, you shouldn't have any problems. But that's what the reducer is for. If you're having a problem getting your paint through your gun, reduce it. If it's not working, reduce it more. But remember, when you put those paints on, you have to put them on lightly. You can't saturate it because it'll build up too quick, and it'll be wet, and it'll collect at the bottom of your car, and it'll be disastrous. You'll have to strip your car and do it again. It takes time. You have to experiment with the paint and figure out what you and your gun can do. We're here with the Spectre Flame paint, and we're going to put on some mist coats. Make sure you get the underside and the fender wells, etc. And go ahead and spray that puppy down. Man, that's starting to look fantastic. And now, if you mix the Spectre Flame right, you don't have to put any clear coat on it. But we will here because we're going to be putting decals on it later. All right, here's the base. We're going to grind these wheels out of there. Now, these wheels, they're nasty looking. I've got this titanium bit set. And again, this is also available on my Amazon Marketplace page. These titanium bits, folks, are priceless. They work great with your Dremel, and they last a long time. And they can help you get into tight spots, etc. Now, you get your bit in there and get it in your Dremel, and you can grind that bad boy out of there, and it'll come out really quick. Look at that. That's fantastic. Like I said, these bits are lifesavers, and I recommend them highly. The set runs, I think, like $15 to $18, but again, they last you a very long time. Now, if you're going to grind out like wheel wells and things like that, you need this set. You really, really do. That looks great. Now we're gonna fix this up. I'm gonna take my file, and I'm gonna file down the channels where the axles go. This will remove the burrs from the grinding that you just did. Now all you're doing is cleaning out the edges so you have a nice clear path to put your axles in place. That'll work out fantastic. All right, let's move on. That's looking pretty good. That gives us a really good base to start with here. I used this abrasive wheel, and I cleaned it up as best as I could. Now we're going to get back in there with the flitz, and we're going to polish this up. Let's move on. Okay, we got the flitz again. Put a little bit on there. Don't put a lot because all you're going to be doing is wasting it. If you need to put some more flitz on there if you need to polish a little bit more, then go ahead and do that. But don't start out with a lot because you might not need it. Get yourself your buffing wheel and get in there and start polishing up this bad boy. I had to slow it down a little bit. It was going too fast. Take your time, cover all the areas. And like I said, if it's to the point where you want to put some more on there, then please do. And get it polished up and get it ready. Let's go ahead and speed this up. Now we're going to go ahead and polish up the glass. I got the glass rubbed down with the flitz. Now when you're doing the glass and you're using your cloth wheel here, make sure that you go slow, because this will develop a lot of heat and it will melt your plastic and it will ruin it, okay? So make sure your Dremel is at a very low setting and keep an eye on it. You just don't want it to get hot. And also hold on to it well, because if that wheel grabs onto that plastic windshield and jerks it out of your hand, it's liable to crack it. So please be careful with this. You can get the inside and the outside of the glass like I am here. And again, slowly. You don't want to break your plastic here, because sometimes with these old Hot Wheels cars, you can't get the plastic online. They just, like, this car is not super popular. That's why you may not have even heard about this casting. It's not popular like a Camaro or a Mustang or Olds 442 or something like that. You know, muscle cars. Fantasy cars just are not that popular. This is looking really sweet. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, now that we got the base all polished up, you're thinking, hey, what can I do to keep it from tarnishing again? Here I've got Renaissance wax. Now, Renaissance wax is used in the jewelry industry, and it's also used in the museum industry. Is a museum an industry? Well, anyway, it's used in museums to help preserve metal so it doesn't tarnish. Rub a little bit on there with your finger, as you see here. Now, this is a petroleum-based product, so you'll be able to smell that when you open up the little jar. Now, I've had this jar for a very long time. They last a long time. And again, you can get this at my Amazon Marketplace page. So rub the Renaissance wax on there, and then take a cloth and wipe it down and wipe it off. It'll help protect it so it doesn't tarnish up again and keep it shiny. Now, I got this tip from my friend Paul over at Fat Guy Productions. And if you haven't subscribed to Paul, go ahead and subscribe to him. He's got some really cool tips, and he does a bunch of other stuff too. I mean, he does model cars and rockets, and he does, he's doing one right now of the Arizona, the USS Arizona. And man, this guy is so meticulous. His work is incredible. So check out Paul at Fat Guy Productions. So anyway, like I said, you rub it down with this Renaissance wax, and it will keep it from tarnishing later on. But look how shiny it makes it too. This is fantastic, folks. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and replace the old nasty wheels with some real red lines. Here I've got some bearings. Now look at the little indentation inside this bearing here. This is where the tip of your axle goes so it doesn't rub on the inside of the wheel. Now those little plastic tabs on the opposite side, that was where these were 3D printed, and that was the support stalks. I go ahead and I file those down, and I put my axle material right through the end of the bearing. Now I've already pinched one end of the axle, as you'll see here in just a moment. There you go, see that? I used my fence pliers, and I went ahead and squeezed the end of that axle. Now if it sticks out a little bit, you can take a file and you can go ahead and grind that down. Now the reason we do that is because when you go to put these wheels on, the wheel goes all the way to the end of the bearing, and if this part of the axle sticks out past the end of the bearing, it will grind into the wheel and it will make it hold up. It'll rub on the inside and it won't roll freely. So try and clean that up as best as you can without the bearing falling off. There's your tip today from your Uncle Paulie. Now here's the decals that I'm going to use on the car. We got these decals from Second Chance Redlines. Vince has got a lot of great stuff over there at Second Chance Redlines, so go ahead and go to the website and check it out. Second Chance Redlines. Great products over there, folks. Let's move on. I had a really good question for one of the subscribers. He says, what's the difference between micro sol and micro set? Okay? And I says, that's a really good question. You got the two different ones, micro set and micro sol. Micro set, think of it this way. Micro set helps you set the decal on the car. You rub down your area, and this fluid helps the decal adhere better to the surface of your car. So you're going to use micro set to set your decal. Once that's done, and your decals dry, and you should let them dry a good 12 hours or more. I try to let my decals set overnight. Use your Q-tip to squeeze out any excess fluid, and again, let it set overnight at least. When you're done, you'll come back in with the micro sol, or solvent. And what that does is it helps your decal fit into little crevices and shapes. You'll rub it in and it will go into like door jambs, around door hinges, down around hoods and curved surfaces, etc. So micro set to set the decal. Micro sol to the solvent to form your decal. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, we've got all the decals set into place. We're going to let these set up overnight, and then we're going to come back in and clear coat the car. These decals look hot, especially on that Spectre Flame paint. That's fantastic. Now again, I got these decals from Second Chance Redlines. So go check out Second Chance Redlines and see what Vince has to offer. And if you need something special, get a hold of him. He'll do it up for you. Here we've got all our pieces. We've got the body with the brand new decals and the Spectre Flame paint. We've got the base all polished up with brand new Redline tires, not those nasty looking beat up old ones there. Here we've got the glass. We've got it polished up with the flits, and we're going to put it all together. And here's what we started with, this large charge. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the enamel paint, but Mattel was trying to save money because initially during the first couple seasons of Hot Wheels, they sold like gangbusters, and then they started to taper off. But again, that's when a lot of your fantasy cars started coming in the early to mid 70s and like that too. Now this is a pretty good, cool looking car and a good concept car. So we stripped it down, got all the old enamel paint off, the opaque paint. We came back in with some Spectre Flame green. We put brand new decals on there from Second Chance Redlines and brand new wheels, and of course the Spectre Flame paint from the Redline shop. So we got that all together, and it turned out fantastic. And like I said, you guys can do this too. And here's what we come up with. Look how beautiful this car looks. This is the way it should have been. Had Mattel not started cutting costs and cutting corners and like that, these cars are fantastic. And this is the way this car should have looked in my opinion. Now again, the car only came in green. Now later on, I think they had a release where they had one that was in chrome or something like that. But as far as the initial release, they only came in green. It should have been in Spectre Flame, and they should have stuck with the original Redline tires. Even if it was cap wheels, it would have been cool. But we took it all down, we cleaned it up, we polished it up, we painted it up with that beautiful Spectre Flame paint from the Redline shop, and put brand new tires on there from the Redline shop, and we got the decals from Second Chance Redlines. And like I said again, folks, you can do this too. Follow the videos and follow all the other folks on YouTube. Thank you for joining me today on Diecast Graveyard. We got a lot more videos coming up in the future, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And thank you again for joining me here today. If there's something you'd like to see, put it in the comments. Thank you, and cheers.